From the beautiful Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, this is the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. We take questions from anyone in the dental profession and discuss what it takes to win not only in dentistry, but in life. Business, leadership, relationships, parenting, health and wellness, money management, nothing is off limits on the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. I'm Jason Tenori, your host, and have over 20 years of experience to pull from. Learn from my mistakes and let me help you collapse time so you can become the best version of yourself. Yo, what's up? Dr. Jason here. Welcome back to the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. You're not going to hear a rambling or a musing or a rant from me today, and that will probably excite most of you. Maybe it'll disappoint some of you. And for those of you that I am going to disappoint today, I love you dearly. But I'm excited today to have another guest on the show. This guest and I were talking a little bit before we hit record. So, very successful dentist in North Carolina. And he's just, dealing with what we've called ceilings of complexity, right? It's one thing to get the practice to a certain level, and then you reach a certain level of capacity, albeit physical capacity, team member capacity, leadership capacity, what have you. And how do we navigate that? How do we deal with that? So I feel really excited and about this conversation, and I think it's going to benefit a lot of people that are definitely in his situation or something very, very close to that. So I'm excited to introduce Corey to the show, and I'm excited to unpack his situation in an effort to obviously help him, but arguably more importantly, to help a lot of the people that are probably in a similar situation to Corey. So, Corey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jason. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm really excited too. So, why don't you just give us a little bit of context, give the listeners just kind of, where you're at. We could talk about how many years you've been doing this, what size practice are you in, team member size, kind of where have you been, where you are, and maybe some of the pain points that you're dealing with in terms of where you'd like to go.
Okay. Well, I have been with this practice. I purchased the practice around the end of 2019. It we have 5 ops now as of last year. It was 4 ops for several years. And then in 2024, we built out an extra operatory. We've been attempting to overhire a little bit because we're expecting to grow. So right now in the office, I have 3 team members in the front, and we have 1 who assists them virtually. That team member used to be an office manager previously, but she'll be retiring in March. So we hired a couple fairly new people up front recently to kind of backfill and to be prepared for when that team member retires. And then we run in our 5 ops, we run with 3 columns of hygiene and then 2 doctor chairs. And then we have 4 hygiene team members. A couple of them are part-time. Actually, 3 of them are part-time and 1 is full. I've got 2 full-time and 1 part-time dental assistant. So that's our team. But I would say right now I feel really good about our team. I'm running the office really with a team lead structure. So we have a front office team lead, a clinical team lead, and a hygiene team lead. And I think they're just fantastic rock stars. Trust and love and appreciate them. So really, really excited for where our future is going, because many of these team members have joined us this past year. We had a rocky year. It's been maybe a year and a few months since we started kind of restructuring and reestablishing our office. In 2024, I felt like I was in a really great position to add an associate, and then I was really humbled to find out that, there are some core problems going on in our culture and in our office. And, I had to recognize that many of those things were things that I could have or should have fixed in the past, but didn't. And so I've really been working on growing myself during the past year, and also recruiting and establishing kind of an ideal leadership team for the office. So that's hopefully that gives a little bit of context of who we are. We do general dentistry, and I am the only doctor right now. I'd
Yeah.
like to grow the office, like to add other dental providers, other doctors, and we're approaching that in a couple different angles right now. We'd like to do very basic remodel to add a couple chairs to our space so that we can have another doctor working side by side with me some of the days. But then we're also just looking at moving locations to give ourselves a little more room. Um, what I'm really facing right now is we've had kind of a space ceiling. Like you said, we're hitting a ceiling there with our location and our space for quite some time. And then what I think I was describing a minute ago was I hit a ceiling in terms of my leadership about a year ago, and had to really recognize where I could improve and how I could do a little better with my team. Um, Both of these things kind of working on actively improving, and I think right now I'm feeling really good. Really happy about where we're headed. One of the big concerns I have, and one of the reasons I had reached out to you, Jason, was because as we're growing, I'm also trying to be true to why I'm doing this in the first place. Why would I grow? And the goal here is to make myself more available to be a better leader of the business, not just, a dentist and then, a leader of the business as a hobby or in my spare time. So I'm trying to make myself a little more available to do that because I think it will help me to, again, be a better leader, to guide my team and to be more supportive of them. But the other things are I'm also wanting to grow because I want to recapture some time for myself for things that are important to me. I had expressed to you one of the things that are new for us recently, and why this feels more urgent to me right now is that we've been asked to host a Bible study for some of the teenagers in our church before they go to school in the morning, which we love. It's really, really fun. We've got like sometimes as many as 18 kids sitting in our house, and they can get loud and fun, and we love it. Um, but what that means is it means I roll into the office at 8 o'clock. I'm not there for huddle anymore, and we usually start that 7:45. And I use it very much as a time to connect with my team. And I think about this book, The Culture Code, where it talked about physical proximity being really important to a strong culture. So I love that we do it, but I'm just not available for it anymore. So I've turned it over to my team leads. They're doing a great job. The other thing that I'm trying to be, again, recapture for myself is just to take care of myself a little better. I I used to love riding my bike to work every day. And I felt like, I don't, in the past year, I haven't felt like I had the time for that. And I've started to exercise more again, and I love it. My wife saw that I had this local gym up on my web browser for a couple weeks, looking at it, thinking about it, wondering if I could make it work. So for a birthday present, she signed me up. It's been fantastic. The way that it works, though, it's kind of a class environment where I need to be there at a certain time. And so that means I finish patients at 5. I have to be in the gym ready to go at 5:30. So again, less time than I'm used to. I was before arriving before 7 to be in the office, and then I would be there. In my estimation, I would be there until 6:30. By my wife's estimation, I was there probably closer to 7:30. So spending 12 or more hours at the office gave me lots of face time with the team. But
Yeah.
what's interesting is it didn't seem to result in traction. And so I'm recognizing, oh, okay. So anyway, long lead up here, but really my question and my thoughts right now are, how can I be the best leader for my team? How can I keep the culture strong when I'm not present? Because sometimes that lack of proximity, you start to lose the connection with people, and I want to make sure I can keep that.
Yeah. So awesome job at kind of explaining your situation. I just have a couple follow-up questions. Are you open 4 days or 5 days a week?
We do 4 days right now.
Okay, awesome. And the timeline for these additional operatories, are we talking a sixth and seventh op, or just a sixth op? What are we thinking?
6 and 7.
Uh-huh. And what is the timeline for that?
Right now, I'm just waiting on equipment reps and engineers to finish their design, and then I can schedule with the contractor. So we're getting pretty close to the end of this design phase. I expect the contractor won't be available for a few more months to begin.
Yeah. Okay, so when you say go, it's probably a 3 to 4 month project.
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. So there's so many things that we can talk about here. And unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, there's no right or wrong answers, right? It just comes down to what feels good. I think it's awesome that you are dedicating time for yourself, both in terms of the morning Bible study, which obviously is for those kids, but I would argue, correct me if I'm wrong, that it probably fills your cup up as well.
Absolutely.
And then from the fitness perspective. So I think that's awesome. I also understand the dilemma with the Bible study taking away from your morning huddle time or your proximity with your team, with your entire team. And the fact that if you need to be to this workout session by 5:30, you're basically doing the final polish on a filling and then you're out the door. There's no kind of quote unquote open door policy after work where one of the team members can just come talk to you for 15 or 20 minutes. We just don't have that capacity anymore. Um, and again, it's not good or bad. It just is. So in situations like this, I try to kind of ask myself, what specifically are my goals here? Well, you've already shared that, the Bible study is super important to you. That's like a non-negotiable. The working out is super important for you. That's a non-negotiable. But you've also shared that either being present at your current level or maybe enhancing it with your team is super important. Also, the idea of connecting maybe at a deeper level with your leadership team and empowering them and spending time with them is fairly important. So, is there anything else that I'm missing that's like really important for you right now?
Well, I've probably been a little remiss in not mentioning um, my family, which is my wife, and we have one son. They both seem, I believe, to have the same love language, and that is quality time.
Yeah.
And so I historically, I think, do pretty good at just setting things aside and saying, okay, now we're together.
Yeah.
Important to me that remains. Our son, we've only got him here at home for a few more years. He's 15.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I am 100% available when they need me. And I want to make sure that's consistent. And I would say right now it is. So that's why I probably didn't mention it because it feels like, oh, I think I'm doing a good job there.
Yeah.
But I don't want these other polls to take me away from having that quality family time as well. And I don't know that I have a number on that right now. But I would say that's probably the other important thing.
How often do you meet with your leadership team now?
So right now we're doing a meeting Tuesday evenings after work. That one works because my son has like a church youth group thing, and so he's busy, and so I meet with them then, and I just skip the gym that day.
Via Zoom or Thursday evening right after work?
This is a Tuesday evening right after work, and they all come and we hang out in my office together.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. So I don't have, I'm just going to throw out ideas. I'm just going to ask questions and then we'll kind of um, go through it. Is there any possibility that you reduce your clinical time in some capacity? Have you thought about going from 4 days a week to three and a half?
I guess I have felt that I shouldn't do it until I have somebody to fill in for me because I
Hmm.
think about not using the. I'm okay to back down my hours, but I feel like I need an associate, which I have not had an associate before.
Hmm.
But I feel like I need somebody to take up that slack so that we don't run our overhead through the roof.
Okay. I hear that. I'll push back a little bit and play devil's advocate. Just something to think about. I have never, and I mean this honestly, never had a coaching client go from 4 days to 3.5 days and seen a drop in their um, adjusted production. It's amazing what happens. They just figure out ways to become more efficient with their time. They are more diligent about how they're scheduling. Um, so I would argue, and again, I'm not suggesting this is what you do, but I just want you to think about things. I
Mm.
would argue that if you went from 4 days clinically to 3.5 days clinically, you would not see a drop in revenue. And I would also argue that if your team can be disciplined and not, put in Mrs. Jones at, when you're supposed to have that time, that you can stay in the office and be present. You can do hygiene exams, but it would also allow you some opportunity to connect with team members in the moment. The office would not be as chaotic because you're not seeing patients out of those two chairs. And it might give you a little bit of CEO time. It might give you a little bit of some of that connection time that you're looking at. So that is one, what I would call temporary solution. The real solution is going to come once you add these two additional operatories and you hire either a part-time or full-time associate, and then you take your clinical days from ideally 4 to 3. So now we have a full day of we'll call it non-clinical time, and we can unpack what I would encourage you to do with that. But that's not, if I'm hearing you correctly based on the timeline, that's not going to be anything that's going to occur, maybe for the next 6 months. So if our timeline is what month are we in here? September, October? We're in September. Let's say our timeline is April 1st. Let's say this thing is dialed in by April 1st. I have no idea if that's true. I'm just throwing out a date.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that need to start happening now. One of the first things that needs to happen is we need to start vetting associates. So we need to come up with, who is my ideal associate? What does that avatar look like? Is it a man or a woman? Is it part-time or is it full-time? Are we going to open up the office 5 days a week, or are we going to stay at 4 days a week? Are they going to have a skill set that is similar to yours or that complements yours? So again, no right or wrong answer, but these are questions that need to be answered. So when you start your search, you can have absolute clarity with what you're looking for. Another question, and again, podcast for another day. Another question that constantly comes up during these vetting and interviewing processes is partnership. Like, you're going to get the question, is partnership available? And I don't care if the answer is yes or no. I do care that you answer with some level of objectivity and not like, well, it could be maybe, that's, in my opinion, a recipe for disaster. So I think you need to get all of that stuff dialed in. So if we're going to do some vision work, and you and I have never really done any vision work together, not granular vision work, but if we're going to do some vision work for you right now, I'm trying to think of, what does the perfect situation look like for you in 6 months? It's probably a a 7 operatory office. It's you working out of two chairs 3 days a week. It's either a part-time or full-time associate working with you those 4 days, 3 days. Um, and it's probably three hygienists. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, what reservations do you have about that vision in 6 months?
my biggest concerns would be my preference would be to have a full-time associate,
Love it.
extend our days and use the Friday that we're not currently seeing patients, so that we have a couple days we're working side by side, but then a couple days they can work on their own, but I'm available. Um, the concerns I have would be, okay, well, to do that, we need to grow or reschedule our team to work that properly. That becomes a lot more people to manage. There's obviously concern with overhead there. Um, And then I guess just the concern of, okay, well, got to find an associate. That's for a first timer, that seems like a difficult, a big mountain to climb. Um,
Yeah.
and my first biggest reservations, making sure that I am properly onboarding an associate. Um, and I agree, your question about partnership. When I worked as an associate, that was a huge question for me, and the answer was very nebulous. And then
Right.
when a partnership offer did come, trust had been degraded quite a bit, and
Right.
I didn't take that route. And so, yeah, I guess some clarity on that is something I'll have to find and understand.
Yeah. And we can have another conversation about that. So love everything that you just said. Um, as someone that has over 20 associates and has actively recruited associates for almost 20 years, there is a process that, obviously I'll walk you through. Um, but I'm certainly not dismissing the fear that's associated with your first one, right? Like it's a big jump, right? These patients are loyal to you, they love you, your staff is loyal to you, they love you. So I 100% get the fear and anxiety of of taking this jump, right?
Mhm.
Which ultimately comes back to vision work. And I'm so glad that you clearly articulated to us about 10 or 15 minutes ago why you're doing this. So you have clarity on your why. So this needs to happen. This is going to happen. It just comes down to you've already committed to it. So how do we develop the courage to do it predictably? And I think that comes with, maybe leaning on the experiences of other people. Obviously, you can lean on me. There's other people in your network that you can lean on, but people that have recruited and successfully onboarded associates multiple times over can coach you through how to do this, and that's going to give you the courage to kind of take that step and then do it. And then once you've done that, will it be perfect? Absolutely not. But it'll be more perfect than it would have been if you didn't do any research on how to do it. And you'll run into micro examples on a daily basis of things that come up that you can learn from and you can tweak and you can ultimately um, be better for it. So I love all that. So we're moving to 7 operatories. We're gonna develop an avatar. We're gonna start the actively recruitment process. I don't love that you want to be at morning meeting, but you can't be, right? Now, if it were something else, like I want to be at morning meeting, but I also love my pumpkin spice lattes, so I'm at the drive-in for Starbucks. That's why I can't be at morning meeting. Then I would call you out. But you have a conflict between two really amazing, really important things. So I'll ask the obvious questions of if that's important to you to be part of both of them, do we either figure out a way to move the time of the Bible study, or do we consider moving the time of um, when we see our first patient?
Um, I've thought about a lot of this, and I feel a little hemmed in. The
I'm
Bible
sure.
study one is tough because we're asking kids to get up and come, and I'm really impressed that this many kids are getting up this early to come and do this. And so asking them to come in earlier, I feel like may not be in their best interest.
I
And
would agree.
um, thinking about So I had this conversation with my leadership team in one of our Tuesday meetings, and we talked about, okay, well, what if we push back our start time for every day? What if we, I had floated the idea of what if we did a 30-minute lunch instead of an hour, and we started at 8:30 instead of 8. I'd be here. I could probably even ride my bike here, and then we'd have our huddle, and it'd be great. Um, my front office team lead felt that was a hard one for her because she said, wow, that 8 o'clock is just so coveted. It is the spot people want that we can fill so predictably. Um, And it was a really hard ask. And so I was like, okay, let's not try it. We can't jump to that quickly anyway because our
Right.
study scheduled out for 8 months or whatever. So
Right.
so I didn't feel like it made sense to jump on that. We do have we have a weekly team meeting where what we've been doing previously, we'd start it a little earlier than normal. We'd start at 7:30 and we go until 8:30. So it only bump into our clinical time by half hour, but we get an hour with everybody. That was working really nicely. People seem
Yeah.
to enjoy it. But of course, now with me not being available, I get there for the second half of it. Um, it's okay, but I think we're losing some quality in continuity because once I come in, everybody gets distracted, and then
Right.
maybe we're just goofing off talking together. And I do think there's some value there, and us like but it does interrupt the flow. Um, so we've talked about in the future moving our team training from 8 until 9, and then shortening our lunch period. My assistant team lead, she has no problem working through lunch with me. So that's probably what we'll do on Wednesdays is do our team meeting 8 to 9 and then just work straight through lunch and see patients until 5. That's what I've conceptualized so far. But that's the best I've come up with is that one option, one day a week. Do you have any insight to this on, really, is it that big a deal if we just start 8:30 every day?
Um, I have so many thoughts on this. So personally, I would not move morning huddle. I think morning huddle is an awesome opportunity to empower leaders. And if I were in your situation, sounds like you don't have an office manager, which is fine. I would empower your leadership team to rotate through managing morning meeting. I would sit down with your leadership team, create an agenda for a morning meeting that you think is going to be wildly beneficial with components that are practice management relevant, going over key things in the schedule and are we at goal and all of those things, but also a component of morning meeting that is going to be doubling down on culture and morale. So in our world, morning meeting is anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes. Half of that is spent on schedule review, not the entire schedule, because we've gotten into that trap of just reciting your schedule. That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is identify specific things in the schedule that are very relevant, like Mrs. Jones has an outstanding crown at 2 o'clock. This patient's habitually late. Please give them a call 15 minutes for their appointment. This patient has a balance and their husband's overdue for hygiene, whatever it is, right? Those things. Um, we have some opportunities for same day treatment here and here. Here's an opportunity for emergency, blah, blah, blah. So you need to have those conversations. I would encourage you to have those instead of just reciting the schedule. But the second half of morning meeting should definitely be something in our world that's core value based, review and recognition based, following the servant leadership principles. So it could be something as simple as your leader identifying how an employee the day before exhibited one of your core values. And as you've heard me say with the servant leadership stuff, be sincere and specific. I want to recognize Mary for exhibiting just the amazing our core value of empathy or compassion. I overheard her talking to a patient up front, and the patient was very upset, and Mary just handled it beautifully. This is how it went, and I just wanted to recognize her in front of the group. Things like that go a super long way. So any type of practice like that, I think, could be wildly beneficial. And as much as you want to be there for it, I do feel that there is some value in your absenteeism because it forces the other leaders to not use you as a crutch. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I have wanted to hand it off for a very, very long time, but until this happened, I was walking in,
Yeah.
running everything, not meaning to step on people's toes or take away from their leadership opportunities. Just, hey, yeah, anyway. So I have seen a lot of value in that. that they
Yeah.
are leading and they're leading well. Um, so I like what you're saying. We've been doing a couple of things similar. I would say on Tuesdays, they're going over any reviews that have come through, and they're identifying what core values in our office are being reflected in the reviews we're seeing.
Love
Thursday,
it.
we're talking about numbers and are we hitting our goals? Where are we? Um, anyway, and then Monday and Wednesday, we have some more simplistic things going on. But
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. So what does that do for us? That keeps that 8 o'clock appointment open for patients because I think your front desk person's right. We actually start seeing patients at 7 a.m. and those appointments are wildly in demand. So I hear what you're saying. I hear what she's saying about the idea of moving it down. Um, I think the next thing that we need to do is strategically figure out a better time to meet with your team as a whole and with your leadership team. So, how often are you meeting with your team as a whole?
we're doing weekly, and it's
Okay.
a Wednesday morning. And this is where previously we'd only bump into the clinical time by a half hour. If things stay as they are, then I would use the 8 to 9 period once we can get that in the schedule. So it'd be every Wednesday, 8 to 9. Um, Curious your thoughts here. In the past, I've done like lunch meetings, study club stuff during lunch. We've done book clubs, all kinds of things. I love
Yeah.
the format we have with our team meeting, but lunch is hard. I
Yeah.
find patient treatment runs over, or you have somebody who decides they're not in the mood, and so be back in the stary area. This is too important. I can't come and play games with you guys, And so I feel like really, really easy. And I think maybe the same challenge if we do it end of day. If we have patient treatment beforehand, it seems a little too easy for people to postpone, push it off. And so that's why I've settled on this idea of doing it in the morning, but definitely would be open to advice if I might be missing something there, if we could handle it better in those other time periods.
I love the idea of the morning. So, a couple things. When I was in your situation, um, we we went from 5 days to 4 days, and then when the magic really started to happen is when we went to 3.5 days as a team. So we would work 3 full days, and then we would work a half day, let's say 7 till 12, and everybody would have lunch and be kind of chill, and then that afternoon we would spend every week on meetings, trainings, calibrations, stuff like that. So I'm not suggesting you do that, but that time is very, very valuable. I don't think doing things over lunch is predictable, although we do it. It's not nearly as predictable. I hate the idea of doing things at the end of the day. I just feel that the predictability of getting out on time is low. And then more importantly, at least from my perspective, if you have a really busy office like I know you do, you're just mentally fried. And it's hard to be as emotionally present as you want to be when you've been doing fillings and endo for 8 hours and you're just exhausted. You just want to go home. So I love the idea of 8 to 9. If you feel that there's a ton of value in your team meeting weekly, then do that. I would argue that you could probably change that cadence to every other week. And then if you're going to do something like that, maybe you alternate it with your leadership team. So, the first and third Wednesday of the month, you meet as an entire team. And then if you have a dialed in agenda, you should be fairly productive. And I can send you some meeting agenda stuff. And then the other part of that, or let's say the second and fourth Wednesday from 8 to 9 would be you and your leadership team. Um, that feels good to me. The other question is even though you have these leads in place, are they running their own department meetings?
Not consistently. They're coaching in the moment. They
Yeah,
are
perfect.
very hands-on, but they don't have a specific meeting and agenda time. I know that my front office team lead is sitting down routinely each week to review progress of people that are training. My hygiene team lead probably is doing that more on a monthly basis, but then coaching kind of almost all the time. And then
Yeah.
my clinical or my assistant team lead is probably the one I lean on the most. And she's coaching everyone all the time. And then her
Yeah.
team people, she's yeah, there's fewer one-on-one like true meetings that she's having, but she is spending a lot of time coaching, I'd say in the moment.
I think that's great, right? And I think you're at a size where it's not easy, but it's easier than what's going to happen when you bring on this other associate and another, let's say 3 or 4 team members to support them. You'll eventually have to get to the point where you have a regular cadence of department meetings, but you're probably not going to be faced with that for a year or so, as long as your leads are having what I call minute meetings, just moment to moment conversations of um, what our expectations are, coaching people up in the moment and stuff like that. So if that's the case, then I think you create some capacity in your life by moving all of your meetings to that 8 to 9 o'clock time. So you're no longer meeting after work. You're not keeping people around, stuff like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. And I think you're probably right. Yeah, moving to every other week with the full team and then the others with my leadership team. That's probably gonna be more effective. But I do think what you've said specifically, the agenda. I think we tend to we're people to have a lot to say, a lot to think about, and we can waste an hour quickly, very, very
Yeah.
quick.
That's
Um,
probably why you feel that you need to meet weekly is because you don't, and I'm going to make some assumptions here, and I apologize for this, but you don't nearly get through as much stuff as you want to on during a regular meeting. And the joke I always use is, you spend 20 minutes arguing on, what color polo we're going to wear to work or what flavor prophy paste should we have in hygiene. And you have those conversations because it's easy to have those conversations. But when we really need to kind of dig into something really important, it's just harder to do, right? And if you have some trust and vulnerability built up amongst the team and people are a little bit courageous, they can kind of dip their toe into those types of things, and you can really have great interactive meetings that move the needle and you can get a lot done. You can get tons done in an hour. And when you do that, you don't need to meet every week. Every other week is more than enough. So the last thing I want to leave you with, uh, Corey, is I'm I understand the mindset with adding Fridays, and I do that, right? I did it out of necessity, but if I could go back and do it again, I would delay adding Fridays for as long as physically possible. When you add Fridays, and again, definitely doing it to if you have capacity constraints, but when you add Friday, only every single time you see a increase in miscommunication because you now have a handful of part-time employees and you might have said something to the team but that information wasn't disseminated to some of the part-time employees that are on Friday. And secondly, again, only every single time, I do see a decrease, sometimes slight, sometimes significant, in morale in culture because it could be something like you're now asking some employees to work 5 days a week, or they volunteered to work 5 days a week, and now they're developing a little bit of uh, subconscious resentment, um, all the way to, the assistant that was in room 6 on Friday didn't properly stock her room, and then you come in on Monday and another assistant's like, you know, why can't Mary on Fridays do what she needs to do? And so you'll eventually get there. But it's one second. You'll eventually get there, but I would try your best to delay it as long as possible.
Okay. That's a really interesting perspective that I had not considered. I've definitely been concerned about the training and the team meetings when we have part-time team members, or the number of part-time we'll have to increase. But I really like that perspective, so I'll definitely take that into account.
So this podcast is as real as it gets. I'm having groceries delivered to my house right now. So the front door is someone's banging on the front door, and because I got some beer, he needs to see my license. So we're gonna have to wrap this one up, brother. I gotta find
Okay.
my license. I gotta show it to the show it to the front desk guy. So again, please reach out to me if you have any other questions about anything. This has been a really good conversation. I think it's going to benefit a lot of people. And obviously, I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, Jason.
I'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, we'll see you.
Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. You have a choice today. Choose to be a lighthouse. Lighthouses are powerful and steadfast. They are beacons of light for others to reference when life gets turbulent. Go out into the world today and become a lighthouse for someone. Give more than you get. True joy comes from serving others. Start today. I'm Jason Tenori, your host. Thank you for listening to the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. For more information, podcast show notes, or links to anything that we have discussed today, please check out our website, thedentallighthouse.com. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to get on the show, please email us at podcast@thedentallighthouse.com.